I won't say an incident. It was just something I noticed the other day. It was mostly out on the trail and flying along and in the street and the traffic and things, and I started waving at people, and it was mostly because they were waving at me. And being down in the South, you don't really realize how much, I guess, well, I'm from New York, so me coming down here, we don't want to talk to anybody, essentially, because you can get robbed, mugged, and other things. And people are very friendly down here. So you generally get over them waving all of the time. So me now being down here for well over 10 years, now realize that this is second nature to me, so I wave a lot. And doing so, you then also see, while on your bike, other cyclists. And most times, other cyclists are very happy to see a cyclist on the road, and they are generally friendly. And I mean, have gone as high big waves to little low waves, but they acknowledge you. You get minimum a head nod. Is generally is what I would say. And from this minimal head nod, you will notice that there is considered a minimal amount of interaction that you must do, because we all realize that if some people are traveling for sheer fun and they're at a very relaxed rate, while others are working out. And I'm one of the working out type generally, so that when I am on a leisurely ride, I don't have to work at all. And basically realizing that was when I realized in myself was sometimes when I would not acknowledge, and I'm talking years back, this is like 10 years ago I started doing this, but now I'm actually thinking about it conscientiously because of the change in society and what's going on now. And basically I noticed that when I pull up to a light and there is a general cycle, I'll say 7 out of 10 will generally wave and say hello and acknowledge you. We'll look you in the face, and there's no issue with this. This is simply the way these works. And that other 3, though, they kind of leave you wondering why, because they made complete eye contact with you and then either averted or just refused to acknowledge and even look at you. They're looking through you then, is what I would say, is what it feels like. Yeah, you're being looked through. And so I put a post up on Strava about this exact same story I'm getting ready to tell, and I got some responses that were pretty much like, well, you're describing exactly what I get, and it's not just me as a black guy, or I'm talking like this was an Indian guy responding to this, and who the thing is most times, in complexion wise, what we forget here in America is almost anyone with any melanin would be considered black, point blank, because you don't know, I mean, if you're brown, what it is the whole point. And that's a beautiful thing if you think about it, because we're all brown. Almost the whole planet is brown. So get back to my point, is basically now you're in traffic and you see this other person and they choose to not acknowledge you, and basically it's for the point of, the only thing that I can think of then is because I'm black now. And so I then started asking online, which is how I got to posting a response. And then I thought about it some and was like, well, so this all came to pass because of an interaction with a child while I was on a trail. And basically it's a long ride, but basically a family was out riding, and so I immediately would move over and split the trail in half. And it's a big trail, because they actually have pretty nice trails down here that are along streams and all kinds of huge pathway things. So it's like the infrastructure for Charlotte was pretty much built with paths in mind somehow recently, I'll guess, and say, because they're there, and they're about, should I say, like 35 feet wide. Like, they aren't small. They're big enough for 2 cars. It's almost a small street is what I would say. And you have room is the point. So I moved over to the other edge, and outside the edge there is grass and a parking median. Not almost parking, it's like a grass median in front of a stream that's another 30 feet, I'll say, because it's big. And basically the little kids are immediately happy, and he's hey mom, Tour de France bike, yelling, screaming. And I'm like, okay, so I slow down for him and let him see it. And literally, that's because I'm doing probably like 30 miles an hour first. So I slow down, and because I don't want to whiz by them. And then I allow the boy to see the bike, because you can hear him. Well, I see him pointing at first, and it's obvious what he's doing because it happens all the time. And then you see his sister look up and go, ah, and look, and they're all playing and yelling in this like 2-second pass by. And so now I go to wave towards the mom, and I get a grimace. I'm like, okay, well maybe she's in a bad mood or something. And then I go to look at the dad, and of course he's got that hat on, and I'm like, well. See, I didn't put it in the post about because I didn't want to cloud people's judgment. But as soon as I saw the hat, I knew what the look was, and I was just like, well, I mean, what am I supposed to say? And his son is admiring my bike, and he's now struggling up the hill last, and I continue going. And so I'm like, So you don't really think about it then. So an hour into my ride later, I'm like, I wonder why he made that face all like this. And I think back to other times when people have made that in traffic, or when people have made that in passing, and it's probably, I can count the times, really. It's no more than, I'll say, 20 or 30 times, and I mean, whatever I write on Strava that says that, and that's pretty good, to be honest, but it's just the times when it does happen, it's so striking that it sticks out in your mind, that it was almost like, well, dang, I mean, the kids were happy, which means the kids are innocent until that father that's going to ruin that child and create views in this world that we don't need. But, I mean, hey, I guess it is what it is, right? We don't really think about the interactions of people from a simple hi, of how that then changes the child, which is why I did say hi to him. So at least he had a good interaction with the black guy he saw in Tour de France stuff the week after the Tour de France ended for him. And hopefully he'll be like me then and go and get a bike one day and want to ride the same way, the same as like the guy I met when I was a kid, who he rented a room in my grandmother's house that was down. She had a big house, I'm talking a huge house, and basically the downstairs was an apartment, and she rented it out to college students. And I remember this guy that used to cycle from Buffalo all the way to St. Catharines in Canada. And I got out a map and figured out it's like a good 200-mile trip. And so you're like, well, dang, like, is he really cycling? Yeah, he really did. And he'd come back and be fine and go over the bridge all the time and would show me the bike. And that's kind of what led me into always loving bikes, I think. But basically from one interaction. So we all have influence, and we all can make a difference in something. Whether or not it's positive or negative, I simply think is our choice of input and how we handle others. You don't always have to react negatively to something. It's not impossible to turn something bad to good, because just like I said, I remember that man from that summer stay, and him always being nice, and he was a big white guy. So, the coolest guy in the world. Never thought about race or nothing. Lived in the middle of the hood though. So, gotta stop being so sensitive. Sometimes we don't need to react to everything. But it doesn't mean to react to nothing either. Have a good day and enjoy the miles.